you should buy a Rolex, like go into debt if you have to, because when you go into job interviews, they're going to see the Rolex and immediately think of you as like a higher, like professional person. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, that's like and it's become everyone's roasting the dude by taking other random things. And it's like, go into debt if you have to, but you have to buy this. And I saw one for Grommet mug. And it's just like, every person needs to have a Grommet mug in their life. Go into debt if you have to.
If you walk
Yeah,
into a
'cause knock
job
it
interview
off.
with Grommet mug, instantly hired just for being cool.
Okay, yeah, that's better. There's a cardboard box in my room, and you know cats in boxes, they go absolutely nuts for them.
Yeah, oh, tell me about that.
Just straight up gooning on it.
Yep, we've all been there. Cats gooning on the box. We've learned nothing from the last podcast.
I haven't listened to the episode, I wouldn't know.
All right, so we're going to talk about... Oh, wait, first of all, welcome to the podcast. This is the Adventure Twins podcast for twins who talk about one of our favorite shows, Adventure Time. I'm Jacob.
I'm John.
And today we're going to talk about Season 1, Episode 8, Business Time. This episode was released April 26th, 2010, written by Luther McLaurin and Armin Mirzayan. In this episode, Finn and Jake find a group of businessmen in a block of ice and enlist their help in adventuring.
But their help goes a little too far where it takes the fun out of adventuring, and Finn and Jake become fat and lazy, and they eventually kick the business guys away.
Yeah, this is very much the B-side episode, paired with Ricardo the Heart Guy. This is just kind of a fun little one-off thing.
I appreciate the one-offs because you get some like fun jokes, but at the same time, yeah, sometimes you can tell it's just like, it's an episode.
Yeah. Is that your thoughts on this one?
I wrote down I kind of forgot about this episode, and I can see why.
I kind of forgot the whole second half of this episode. I remember it's like, yeah, they find the business guys in the blocks of ice, and they have help with business adventures. And then I kind of forgot, like, oh, wait, yeah, I was like, why did they turn on the business guys? I literally just finished watching Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and the plot is not dissimilar to this episode, where Wallace makes he makes a robot gnome, and the gnome takes things a little too far.
I feel like this is a common plot we've seen before in many other TV shows or movies. Like I feel like I can't think of any off the top of my head, but this is something that happens a lot. Oh yeah. Wait, I wrote down examples. Not a perfect example. I'm like, wait a second. Not a perfect example, but the Mr. Meeseeks from Rick and Morty. It kind of reminds me of that, but not really perfect because those go away when they're done.
Yeah, unless you're Jerry and you can't take a stroke off your golf score.
I'm a stickler for the short game. This reminds me of the Phineas and Ferb episode with the Phineas and Ferb bots, in which they build robots to help them do all their like fun summer things. But the Phineas and Ferb bots take it too far and do everything for them, and they literally Phineas and Ferb get bored because like, well, we have nothing to do, and then the Phineas and Ferb bots go like evil or something. They build overpriced coffee shops, and like I don't fully remember how it ends, but the song's really good in that episode.
Yeah, that's we talked about that last time we record. So this was another episode where we record in pairs. And so along with the recording of Ricardo the Heart Guy, our first take on the episode for Business Time was also really bad audio recording. So some of these comments are going to sound very similar. And I was like, this episode of Phineas and Ferb sounds very familiar, despite the fact I don't remember that episode. It's because we talked about it a couple weeks ago, so that's why it sounds familiar.
Yeah, and there's been, just like the last episode, there's been quite a bit of gap between when we watched the episode and when we're now re-recording this. And so we're gonna kind of be reading our notes and forgetting what any of the context are for those notes. So we'll try to see. It honestly makes it a little more fun for me. It's like, what the hell was I thinking?
What do these
Or
notes
like,
mean?
who is that quote from? I don't even remember that.
Beginning with the episode, I love how it starts of they're just on a beach playing with flamethrowers. It's such like I don't need any context here. Like, yeah, sure, that's just what they're doing right now. Because they're trying to build a gauntlet dock, right? Yeah, it's a dock that's also a gauntlet.
Yeah,
and
so natural thing that you would do. Relatable.
They're finding stuff for the gauntlet dock, right? Is that why they have the flamethrowers?
Yes, I think so. Or ice is just like washing up on the beach, and they're just happen to be doing it. I don't remember.
I like that
really
Jake. Finn's like, oh, look at all the stuff I have. Jake, did you find anything? Oh, I keep finding baby shoes.
Baby shoes.
They're all lefties. Hey, it's a great line. I think that one's funny.
I like just all the old pre-war relics is what I call them, that are all washing up in these ice. It makes you kind of wonder, like, are they old human artifacts? Like, are they from a different like land that looks different? Or is it still from the land of Ooh? Like, makes you question.
Oh,
gives
bigger
kind of like
lore
Fallout
questions.
vibes. Bigger lore questions, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just reading through these notes. I have a note that just says well-dressed pickles. Was that in reference to the business guys while they're still on the ice?
I have no idea what that is. I have no idea. That would make the most sense, though.
I mean, going chronologically, I don't think they're even out because the next line is, you got a flambe, which was Finn or Jake being like, oh no, you're burning up the ice too wrong. You gotta, you're going too hard. You got a flambe. And they get the business zombies. Which are a bunch of zombie businessmen stuck in ice.
Are they zombies? I don't... Like, what are they?
They kind of look like zombies. Guys. Yeah, they're just business guys.
Are they human? We don't know.
They're business
Maybe they weren't business guys.
They're corporate drones is what they are. Yeah.
I like when they're going through the gauntlet. I like the animation in that. It kind of is like a third-person camera following them. I love that shot.
I also made specific note of that, of the very sort of like... The way it's animated almost feels like it's like... It's got like the choppy sort of anime style of like an anime action sequence or whatever. But it's like, yeah, it's like an overhead camera, third-person perspective... And it's like one long shot, and I think that's really cool. A little brief animation moment. And then they form the group with the businessmen, Finn and Jake Adventuring Incorporated. You remember that? Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Don't remember that.
Like, BMO's in it for the first time. They get back to the
BMO
treehouse.
first appearance.
Yep. BMO doesn't speak outside of the theme song because you can see BMO before the actual words of the theme song start. You can see BMO in their house. But they're like playing on BMO for like the first time, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the first episode BMO speaks is the one where they're stuck in the treehouse because it's raining.
Yeah.
I think, but I guess that's part of the reason we're rewatching the show as well, is to relive our favorite moments.
Yeah.
Which includes BMO.
Yeah. BMO's
love BMO.
Fantastic. I'm so excited for BMO.
There's the one scene where Finn and Jake are going off on like a job again, and the business dudes have just like made their shoes better or their swords sharper or whatever. And they're walking, and Finn describes himself as more adequate. I remember they used that quote a lot in old Cartoon Network advertisements, like advertising all the different shows or whatever. And that one's just kind of ingrained in my mind. Because I've seen so many ads.
Adequate. That one was okay. So they go off to fight battle cubes, which are attacking Hot Dog Princess. And so they go and they get tired from fighting the battle cubes. So they go take a rest while the business guys go to fight off the battle cubes. And while they're resting, they're given water and orange slices. And I know that because I made note of could fuck up some water and orange slices. And as they're like all refreshed and rehydrated from the joy of orange, vitamin C and water and stuff, they run back into the fight, and it's like, I feel more adequate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that quote, mostly just because I've heard it too many times.
Yeah. I like that Hot Dog Princess just lives in a sty. In, like, you look at, like, Candy Kingdom, which is this kingdom. Hot Dog Princess is just in a sty with a doghouse, and, like, that's the whole kingdom. What does
Like,
Hot Dog Princess do?
Candy Kingdom has, like, a whole, like, economy and constituency and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Hot dog, there are hot dog, like, warriors, but, like, is that it? Are there just, like, 8 people? It's more of, like, an unincorporated town, if anything.
An autonomous collective.
Ah.
I didn't vote for him.
One of the things I question is when they get fat and lazy because they just sit around eating ice cream. One of the things I question is, can't Jake just, like, stretch out the fat, and then that exact thing happens at the very end of the episode?
Oh, yeah, they both get, like, ridiculously fat because they just keep... Jake turns his hand to an ice cream scoop so he can keep eating ice cream, because the business guys go and handle all of the villainy and all the adventures, so they just literally do nothing all day.
I like...
Oh, and there's the line of... I never knew being fat and lazy was so rewarding.
That actually... Okay, that pivots me into what I wanted to talk about then.
Yeah.
And we talked about this last time, but you can kind of look at this episode as glorifying work, and it's very pro-work, or if you're not working, you're fat and lazy, which has, like, body-shaming undertones to it, of course. But the alternative is being anti-work, because if you look at these folks who are just work, they're, like, working to the point of, like, hurting other people, and... Yeah. So
yeah, I also made a note that just says Marxist interpretation of this episode in the nature of work, because you do have this where it's like work is providing fulfillment, but at the same time when you to me it was like an over commercialization or over industrialization of work is when it becomes harmful to others. So it's almost like anti-industrialized, because the businessmen build this giant robot and they suck up all of the little fluffy people and collect them in their care sack, and they're like, oh, they're perfectly safe here, and I'm like, but that's, they realize that, like, some line about, like, but they're not happy, and happiness is irrelevant, so you get this kind of, like, notion of both you need to be doing something or else you're going to get fat and lazy, which is coded as bad here. But also if you like can't go too much, because then you're going to make other people unhappy. You can't let it affect others. You got to do it for personal gain or personal satisfaction, not necessarily gain, but you have to do it for the joy of work itself, really.
I think it's interesting with, like, the businessmen build a machine to solve the problem of these people of the fluffy people not being safe, but really they always were safe, so they created a problem for them to then fix themselves. So it's like it's akin to like
corporations creating a need and then selling you the fix.
I was going to say that, or on a smaller scale, computer hackers creating a virus and then selling you the antivirus software.
Yeah, it's, basically
it's that
the same
in a small
example.
Scale. Or a corporation.
Yeah, well, I mean, corporations, antivirus software, pick a company.
Tomato, potato,
create a
tomato,
need
tomato.
and then sell it and then commodify it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to college. I have thoughts on business in the workplace.
Anytime we talk about workers and means of production or whatever, it always makes me think of that Monty Python sketch where it's like game show with all the communist leaders. And you get up there, it's just trivia about football. It's so funny to me.
Yeah, they bring like the world's greatest like world philosophers and stuff. And it's just like, Oh, who was the game winning score of this cup? No one, no one at all.
No, that one.
And then the alternative, the Philosopher's Cup, where it's Eastern philosophers versus.
Oh yes, the soccer.
It
game,
was
or
the Germans
football
versus
game.
the Greeks philosophers, and it's a big soccer match between all the
they
football
are.
players, and they immediately start, and there's some line of like, oh, the ref is getting a debate about reality, and it's metatextual context within this frame of understanding. Meanwhile, Socrates was offsides. And they just keep throwing philosophy words. The Monty Python guys were so smart for their own good. Yeah.
You can hear more of our talks on Flying Circus on our Monty Python Flying Circus podcast.
Well,
which is of
there's
course
already enough of
called-
those. Ours is the Monty Python Flying Circus Philosophy podcast, where we discuss the philosophy of Monty Python.
the Monty Python guys kind of do that themselves. There's recordings out there of them sitting around talking about the theory behind their humor and why fish is funny. Like, even they do it. Fishy.
Fishy. I don't know. It's very, not to get too in the weeds, but Monty Python is very postmodern in the sense that it breaks down any sort of barrier between high and low culture. It'll take things that are typically considered or historically considered high culture, like philosophy or Proust novels, and it'll break them down and put them in a really stupid kind of context where you don't have to understand what this higher culture thing is to kind of know what the joke is. So it's like the lowbrow culture of, oh, it's a contest where it's summarizing this Proust novel and who can do it under 60 seconds. And it's like, ooh, the furthest anyone's ever gotten is chapter 5. Can we see if you can get further? You don't have to know who Proust is. The joy is just watching them try and really, really quickly describe a plot for some novel you've never heard of. And that's all. I have no doubt these guys know who Proust is and have read this novel. The same with, you don't have to understand the philosophies of the Greeks, of the ancient Greeks, versus like your Nietzsche and stuff like that to understand, oh, they're just playing soccer. Like, that's all it is. And Marx was the ref, right? Or Marx was one of the coaches or something, right?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. We're getting a little.
It's been a second.
Anyway, those are some thoughts.
Yeah, you went to
on,
college.
Yeah. Do I have a media degree? Yeah. Yeah. I was in media studies. Can you tell?
And now you run a podcast
About Adventure Time. Yep. Anyway, yeah. Well, obviously I'm using that. So,
hey, no, it's coming in handy. I think our listeners will enjoy that.
a little bit more. I mean, it's about a show we're not talking about on this podcast, so.
Well, they if they're listening to our Monty Python podcast, they can get that.
Yeah,
there.
they'll know.
It's for the scholars.
I mean, it goes
favorite-
back into the sort of Marxist interpretation of Adventure Time, and what this episode kind of says about the nature of work and gainful employment.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any favorite quotes or jokes or
Or
other fun things you noticed?
Something written down here. She smells like old hot dog water.
After that, they immediately all start kissing her. I like that part. I wrote down the same quote.
Yeah, take one for the team, and they all go kissing. Hot dog princess. Yeah.
I like with the big cubes. Jake grows these giant hands to merge all the cubes, but they're these like super realistic human hands with like hair and stuff.
Fingers. Yeah. I do like how the episode ends with realizing, oh wait, we're still all fat from all the ice cream we ate, and Jake realizes, oh, I can just grow really big, rub his belly a few times, and immediately sucks back down. And Finn tries to do the exact same thing, and the camera pulls in on Finn's face, so it takes up the whole screen, and it just prints the end on his forehead as he frowns, and it just ends. A very, freeze frame reference of a sad-looking face. Potential reference to the 400 Blows, the French New Wave film by Truffaut. Unless it was Godard. if you're listening to this podcast and you have any knowledge of French New Wave films, you might be in the wrong place, buddy. Or in the right place, because obviously I have knowledge of it, so...
If you do, feel free to let us know at adventuretwinspod@gmail.com.
Also, send us a message on Instagram either at adventuretwinspod. Let us know if you're into French New Wave. What's your favorite French New Wave film? And how does it tie into Adventure Time? Let us know. Anyway.
Speaking of when they're molding themselves or their bellies, I like when Finn molds his belly and does impressions with it. And the one is like, I'm Princess Bubblegum and Finn has a big crush on me. And Jake just goes, ha ha ha. Wait, what?
Wait, what was that last? Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a Freudian slip there. I don't know why I'm so into philosophers right now. Or psychologists. I don't know. I just need to read academia, get my fix in.
Yeah, I'm reading Star Wars comics currently.
Hey, I'm reading a Stephen King book.
Oh, which one?
The Dead Zone.
I haven't done that one.
A guy gets in a car wreck, goes into a coma for like 4.5 years, and when he wakes up, if he like touches someone or like grabs their arm or whatever, he can like see into their future and stuff.
Is there like a scary lamp monster or something?
Yeah, scary lamp monster. Weirdly relevant.
Spooky clown.
Ooh, this one's got a spooky clown, but then it gets really Lovecraftian at the end of it, and the kids all fuck each other, which...
Haven't read the book yet. I know that happens.
You know what? I have actually read it in all like 1,200 pages or whatever. In all I knew about it, because I talked to people and were like, oh, what about the big kid orgy scene? And I'm like, I keep hearing about it. There's not a whole lot of book left. It's like within the last like 10, 12 pages. Like it is really? Like one of the, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I was like, there's no way. Like, when is it gonna, there's just not enough time for this to fit in. I'm like, no, it's there. It's at the end.
I remember
it's very late into the book.
I bought it at a Barnes and Noble's, and our Barnes and Noble, I always, there's not an S one.
2 Barnes, 1 Noble.
Yes. And so I'm buying it. Sure. And so I'm buying it. And the dude just immediately starts talking to me about that scene in the book, and I'm just thinking like, what a weird thing to strike up with a stranger. It's like, ha ha ha, yeah, for the kid orgy. And I go, oh, what? Like, that's like, I know about it. You don't need to tell me about it. I'm a patron at your local store here.
Oh, I was at a Barnes & Noble once. I can't remember the 2 books I was getting. But the second book I was getting was a copy of the Communist Manifesto, but it was like a Penguin edition. So there was like an essay that was like explaining the introductory essay was longer than the manifesto itself, which is like 70 pages. It's super like quick read. But they're scanning the first book and they're like chatting to me about it. Like, oh, this one's really popular. Oh, it's coming back in style and whatever. I was like, well, I've always wanted to pick up a copy of this one. And then next one, she scans the Communist Manifesto. No comments at all. Totally silent when she's scanning it. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. Go ahead, tell me you want to pick up. You want to pick up a copy of the Communist Manifesto, huh?
This one's really popular. It's coming back in style, I hear.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? Tell me this one's popular. Go on.
What do you think about the Communist Manifesto, you Barnes and Noble cashier? What do you think that I'm paying for? A lot of people made fun of me that I paid for a copy of the Communist Manifesto from a corporation. And I was like, you know what? You're right, because it's incredibly easily accessible and I can find the whole thing online. So I don't know. Yeah, but I can't find that essay that I don't understand half of because I hadn't read it yet. And also it goes into a history of things way beyond my understanding. I am not super into the history yet.
Before the manifesto?
It's an introductory essay.
That's weird because it feels like something you should have... I get that same thing with like book introductions where it's like, oh, with a new introduction by this person, and the introduction almost assumes that you know the book already, which kind of frustrates me sometimes.
Yeah, you get that a lot with some things. With this one, it was like a lot of providing the historical context for why the manifesto was written in the first place. but it gets into certain historical areas where I have so little knowledge that I couldn't even reach what that portion of the essay was trying to talk about, with like the history of certain markets in like France and like German, economics and stuff. And it was getting into like, Protestantism and all sorts of like different context of like the ruling class and class divisions and class creation and stuff. Way beyond my understanding. So my general knowledge. So
if you understand that, you might understand Adventure Time Season 3 a little bit better, because it pulls for a lot of that old classism and stuff.
You really got to know your marks once you get into the later Adventure Time. They adventure into hitting Soviet Russia, so you really got to know it. It's Worker and Parasite. That's a Simpsons reference. Never mind. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't remember that one.
Okay, you got to look this one up. It's hilarious. Basically, Krusty, for whatever reason, doesn't have Itchy and Scratchy cartoons for the show, so he finds like a Russian bootleg called Worker and Parasite.
Oh, this sounds
Just go
familiar.
look that one up. If you're listening,
I'll probably
go look
know
up. It's such a funny clip. I die laughing almost every time I watch it.
I'm seeing double.
Four Krusties. Yeah, we could. I mean, there's already, I imagine, plenty podcast people talking about The Simpsons. I'm 26 seasons in. I haven't watched.
I'm only 20. I stopped after 20.
Yeah, did you actually go finally watch through 20?
I have seen through 20. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to watch. I need to keep catching up. They're on like 34 now, and I'm so behind.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah. We can
Any
talk
other
about
thoughts
that
on
our
Simpsons rewatch?
I was just saying our What Are Jacob and John Watching podcast.
Just talking about whatever I'm watching that week. So.
Yeah, you know this. I'm watching I can never say that word properly. The duality. I'll say the duality of man. I'm watching The Punisher and Young Jedi Adventures.
Yeah.
So very fun. Mm-hmm. I like Nubs. Nubs could take Punisher in a fight.
What about Nubs and Neil? Neil from Star Wars Skeleton Crew.
Neil. Oh yeah, Neil is the
little blue elephant guy.
The elephant
Nubs,
guy. Yeah.
Nubs and Neil. They could get into some real adventures together.
Nubs would whoop his ass though. Nubs has like super strength. Look, the Acolyte would have ended a lot differently if Nubs was there.
Hey, they're both in the right era.
What? No, technically, the Acolyte's 100 years after High Republic. High Republic Adventures, or Young Jedi Adventures specifically takes place before the true start of High Republic. So this is like all pre the first book. So we already have to cover like probably a decade's worth of stuff and then another 100 years. I don't think poobs live that long. I'm not sure on the lifespan of a poob, but I don't think it's that long.
Just poop it. It's on poob.
It's just poop it.
All right. Well, before we...
God, I hate how much I know about that.
Before we get too into Star Wars The High Republic, you can read all about John's Poob Nubs X Neil fanfiction.
Just poop it.
Just poop it. Just poop it. It's on Poob.
It's on Poob. Literally just poop it.
It's on Tubi with ads. Just poop it. Hey, don't go knocking Tubi. I love Tubi.
It's on Hebe with ads.
Yeah, it's on Mubo. Mubo is a real one.
Oh,
There's actually a couple movies on... Yeah, well, I know Fubo. There's actually a couple movies on Mubo, or a Mubi, that I actually want to watch. I have to sign up for a 1-week free trial of Mubi.
Is that similar to Poopcock?
Yeah. Well, Poopcock has stuff I want to see as well. Owned by NBC. Poopcock.
Poopcock. Dun, dun, dun. Any other thoughts?
All right.
Let's end this.
We just got to get out of here. All right. Adventure Twins.
I'm not saying it. That's stupid.